we started out at the age of 18, 19. When working at a gym required good gym gloves, found a factory to do that. But the factory that made the gym gloves would also do mouse pads. And the promoter at the time of that particular factory said, you guys are smart guys, maybe need to be doing more. So he said, why not push out mouse pads? And Y2K was kind of around the corner. Everyone was talking about tech. So we made our first set of mouse pads, which we made first for our company, then for Compaq computers. And then Compaq, once we did that order, said that what more can you do? So can you do like t-shirts? And we said we could do t-shirts. And then the portfolio kept growing, the number of companies kept growing. And yeah, there's been no looking back since. When Consortium started, it was not about aspiration, it was about desperation. We had run into a really bad situation as a family. We'd been defrauded and we'd finished up everything in terms of capital. So it started with that. But in a few years of doing well, getting the traction, getting the desired customers, we then realized that we want to aspire to become one of the top gifting companies in the world. If not at least in Asia to start with. So the aspiration was to become Asia's top gifting company by the 2nd of Feb 27, but it's an aspiration that was set in place in 2012. It's a very capital intensive industry. People say, oh, we could get into gifting, the barriers are very low. But the point is that you have to give a lot of credit, right? So you're buying from a brand upfront, but you have to give credit of 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. So you have to have a lot of capital available. So capital is obviously one big issue. I think people also struggle with people. Thankfully, we haven't had people struggles. A lot of our original team is still with us, even today. So people is something that a lot of people really struggle with. They aren't able to get them. I think process is something that's very important because you have to have a structured process. To some extent, people believe there is saturation, but that is probably the case for about 98% of the companies. I think you have the 2%, the top percentile, who are always innovating, they're always attending shows like where we are today, where you're seeing, okay, what's trending, what's new. I think social media has been, instrumental in telling people in terms of what are customer trends, what are consumer trends, what are people really looking for. And I think that's been, really good as well. So to be top of the game, you have to be at places where the innovation happens. Authenticity and trust was a very important piece because when I would start reaching out to companies globally, they're like, India ke saath kaam nahi ho sakta, Indian chor hote hain, right? And this is happening, as recent as 2014 and 15. And I said, okay, listen, trust us. I know you may have had bad experiences with the country in the past, but not everyone's the same. You can't typecast an entire nation of 1.3 billion people and put them in that bucket, right? So I think what really happened is that we reached out. We said, give us, trial orders. We really went above and beyond in making that happen. Joined associations over there, came in as someone who was more than just a vendor, but also like a thought leader, someone who came in to contribute. And I think that's really had a big impact. So at Consortium, we've been doing a lot of sustainable merch, which includes bags which are made from ocean waste. So ocean waste has been collected, recycled PET has been created from that, and bags and apparel has been made from ocean waste, one way of doing it. A lot of our factories are also being solar powered. So the power generation is actually a large amount of that is actually coming in from solar. Within the office, right, the paper that we print on is actually recycled paper that we're actually printing on. The bottles that we have in our office, we're not using PET bottles, right? We are actually all using stainless steel flasks or glass. So it's a little things, but it's also the bigger things. And of course, the products that we're offering, there's a lot of sustainable elements over there as well, which is very important. A company that you found, okay, and you started from scratch, a lot of founders will have this mindset that I need to hold on really tight. Meri company hai, maine banai hai, mujhe hi run karna hai. And I think one of the key moments in my life was attending a Tony Robbins event, and Tony Robbins, had to come to Asia for the first time in February of 2018, and he talks about limiting beliefs, and my limiting belief was that I need to control bulk of the stuff. So Tony in that session talks about the fact that how can you do a 180-degree swap? How can you have a different mindset change? And when I did that, and I started taking a step back and letting my teams do a lot of the work, we've actually grown like 10x and 10x and 10x. So I think it's been phenomenal. Clients have, of course, become very, very selective in terms of A, who they work with, B, what they give, and C, what is the overall, user experience. So all of these things have become, very, very important. You're seeing a big push towards brands. Back in the day, you'd probably give, even someone like a journalist a pen and be like, oh, very, very happy. Today, if that pen is not from a brand like a Shantanu and Nikhil, or a luxury brand, they'll be like, oh, what is that, right? Don't be an entrepreneur who says I'm only focusing on the top line, because as they say, right, top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity, and cash is king. So are you making a profit at the end of the day? Do you have money in the bank, which is what is so important? And I think don't forget the purpose why you originally started the company. And I think if you bring that along with authenticity and trust, you'll go far away. And thanks to the government's MSME policy is that as an MSME, you have to be paid in 45 days. Otherwise, A, your expense gets disallowed, or B, you have to pay interest. And we have companies that pay us interest on delayed payments. And I think that's fantastic. So I think government's crushed that aspect as well. I think another thing which is a lifeline is also finance. And I think that's great because, there is microfinance, available. There are startup loans available. There is even SIDBI, etc., giving loans up to a particular amount, which is super. Ease of doing business, I think the compliances are too much. The Inspector Raj still comes back into play. So I think if some of those things could, be simplified, and we could actually make it ease of doing business also for people who want to do business in the country or go global, I think that will be super as well. A company that will always be remembered as one that set the highest standards in terms of ethics, in terms of discipline, in terms of innovation. So, that's really what we're trying to create. So, future leaders and an organization that will truly be remembered as, one of Asia's largest, where everyone said an Indian company has no chance against a Chinese business. I want to be that Indian company that actually beat all the Chinese and became one of the largest in this continent.